"Is that you, Rose?" Massa Williams asked. His voice was soft and weak. "Yes, Massa," I replied. The older man who looked like Massa Williams leaned down and whispered in my ear. "He's dying. Call him father," he said. I didn't want to call this vile man father. I had never thought of him as such. I knew he was, but the thought of calling the man who raped both my mother and me father was sickening. "Yes, Massa," I repeated. The man closed the door behind me. "Rose," Massa Williams called again. My heart raced as I inched toward his bed. "Yes, father," I forced myself to say. I heard Massa Williams sigh. The room was dimly lit with candles. Incense burned in the air, trying to mask the stench of death and defecation. He was too sick to get up and relieve himself. I smiled as I got closer. Not out of love, not out of grief, out of satisfaction. To see him lying in his own filth, weak and helpless, brought me a twisted sense of joy. Massa Williams smiled back at me. He thought my smile was one of love for a father. Poor, pitiful fool. He reached out and grabbed my hand with his old dirty fingers. Fingers caked with blood and shit. "I loved your mother, Rose." As strange as that may sound, being that she was one of my niggers, Massa Williams began. A fit of coughing interrupted him. "Everything all right in there?" The mistress's shrill voice cut through the moment. Massa Williams weakly shook his head. "I hate that woman," he gasped before yelling, "Leave me be." A frustrated sigh sounded from behind the door, followed by the voice of the older white man leading the mistress away. "I know I haven't been much of a father." Massa Williams started again, but I couldn't let him finish. He had never been a father to me. He was my Massa, that was all. I didn't know where the rage came from, but suddenly it overtook me. I wanted to kill him. I knew I would never get another moment like this. He was old and weak, and we were alone in the room, at his request. I grabbed one of his filthy pillows and placed it over his face, pressing down with all my strength. He tried to scream, but the pillow muffled his cries. His frail, dirty hands flailed, fighting for life. "How dare you?" I hissed, my voice shaking with pain and fury. His body squirmed beneath the pillow, but I pressed harder. "You raped my mother," I said, tears rolling down my cheeks as I imagined her hanging from a tree in the woods. "You raped me, not 5 feet from this very door." Flashes of that night flooded my mind. I am your slave, your house Negro. I have never been your daughter. My arms trembled as I pushed down, my body weak and battered. The wound on my ribs, torn open by the overseer's whip, began to bleed again, soaking my old tattered nightgown. "Die and go to hell where you belong," I whispered through clenched teeth. I kept pressing. Then, stillness. His body went limp. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. Was he truly dead? Could my mother's soul finally rest? I was afraid to move the pillow, terrified that he would rise again like the monster he was and strike me down. Taking a deep, shuddering breath, I slowly lifted the pillow from his face. Massa Williams was dead.